Hello, and welcome to another episode of Thought Shared, Souls Bared, the podcast. In comes company. I am Katie, and
I'm Jill.
we're just two theater-loving girls who decided to one day make a podcast all about theater.
Two
And
theater loving gals.
today, we're going to be talking about, because it's spooky season, we're going to be talking about the ghosts that reside inside Broadway theaters.
It's spooky
So
season, but I'm
exciting.
listening to Christmas music. Explain that.
Can't really. I do not care for Christmas music. I'm such a Grinch.
I love Christmas music. I love Christmas everything.
I'm such a Grinch.
Christmas is the best.
All right, Jill,
Anyways.
do you wanna take it away?
Sure. Okay, so the first theater I want to talk about is New Amsterdam because it's the longest. It's the most what's the word I'm looking for? It's the most involved ghost story, I guess.
So, it has a whole background.
There's a whole thing.
For the New Amsterdam, which is currently run by Disney, they have a whole story and background to their ghost. And I'm ready to hear it.
I think it's so interesting. So this is information I pulled from Playbill, and then I also pulled a little bit from another website that I can't remember the name of, but most of it's in Playbill. Because Playbill has a whole article on Broadway ghosts.
Yes, and we highly recommend you read it as well.
Yes. So Olive Thomas, who was a one-time Ziegfeld Follies chorus girl, that's how Playbill describes her.
Honestly, that's what I'd want to be. If I were to be in New York in the 1920s, I had nothing else going for me. I may as well be a Ziegfeld Folly girl.
Honestly. Playbill says that she's by far the most active ghost on Broadway, which is, from what I could tell, true based on the other ghost stories that I looked into. She comes up so much that Dana Amendola, who is the vice president of operations for the Disney Theatrical Group, put photographs of her at every entrance of the theater so that workers could greet her when they arrived for work every single day, which is apparently what keeps her
happy.
Mischief at yes, it keeps her the happiest, which me. Acknowledge me and I'm happy. Acknowledge my existence and I'm happy. But her story is sad. It sucks because it's honestly really freaking sad. So she was a chorus girl in the 1915 Ziegfeld Follies on the New Amsterdam main stage. I cannot talk today. And Ziegfeld's subsequent midnight frolics at the more intimate New Amsterdam roof on the top floor of this exact same building. She went out to Hollywood, she made a few silent films, and she married Jack Pickford, who was the brother of period superstar Mary Pickford. And when they were on a trip to Paris in 1920, Jack told her that he contracted syphilis and that she most likely had it also, which
love that for them.
The whole next thing is no one exactly knows what happened next. It kind of is the Marilyn Monroe story, with pills and everything. So it's kind of no one really knows what happened because I don't think Marilyn Monroe killed herself, but that's a whole other discussion.
You think the Kennedys did it?
Yes, I do think the Kennedys did it. I absolutely believe that. Official reports say that Olive accidentally swallowed an overdose of Jack's medicine, which was mercury bichloride, which is poisonous in large quantities. But how would she have accidentally done that? You don't just accidentally down an entire bottle of pills. Doesn't make any sense. But she died 2 days later and her body was brought back to Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx for burial.
Wait, where she died in California, or where'd she die?
She died in Paris, I think.
Oh, okay.
From what it says, it was on their trip to Paris is when she died.
Oh. All right.
But then workers at the New Amsterdam started telling their friends that they'd run into Olive backstage, and they were like, she's dead though, so that doesn't make any sense.
They're like, actually, I heard she died in France last week.
Right. So she kept coming up in and out throughout the 1920s, and then everything was quiet during the decades when 42nd Street was completely on a decline, and like the theater just was never used for like shows and things. So reports came back again when Disney bought the corporation, but when, oh my God, when the Disney Corporation bought the theater in the mid 90s, and they like had like this huge restoration of New Amsterdam. So construction workers were reporting that their work area was being invaded by a woman carrying a blue bottle. Crazy. And then the reports kept going after the theater reopened with King David and Lion King in 1997 and has kept going since. So the Amendola, so Dana Amendola, who was the VP of operations for Disney Theatrical Group. So when Amendola wasn't exactly a believer, but didn't not believe it, he was touring the old New Amsterdam Roof Theater, so that's like the top floor of the building, in the mid 2000s when it was converted into an office space. And as he passed below the stage, he suddenly and distinctly heard the sound of tap dancing on the boards above him. He really quick ran upstage to the stage level, and he found that he was alone. So there was no one there, but he heard the tap dancing.
Spooky.
Which, if I was a ghost, that's what I would be doing too. So technically, since Dana Amendola is this ghost landlord, he has taken over becoming the keeper of her life, essentially, as a ghost. So like her afterlife. So he like literally clocks reports of her appearances. So he will literally like document reports of her appearances. So early reports of all his appearances described a young woman wearing a sash and carrying a bottle of pills who would sometimes speak. Strangely, people in various areas who didn't know one another would imitate her voice in exactly the same way. So like, I don't know if it's a possession thing or if it's just these people being stupid. I don't know. But
is there a recording? I wonder if a recording exists of her voice.
I never looked into that. That's actually really good. I don't know. I'll look into it while you're discussing yours and we'll find it.
Okay.
Let's see. In the early Disney era, Amendola said that a night watchman at the theater resigned on the spot after reportedly witnessing a woman cross the stage and disappear through a solid wall.
All right.
Which, that's aggressive. She often appears in the trap beneath what was once the stage of the New Amsterdam Roof Theater, the space where Amendola heard the mysterious tap dancing, and that space is now used for storage. But employees report seeing a woman there, or sometimes a disembodied part of feet climbing a staircase, which is terrifying. During previews of Aladdin, this part was really interesting. There was a female replacement conductor who had worked on Mary Poppins and knew about Olive, like she'd heard about Olive. And she was getting ready in her dressing room, and she spoke out loud to Olive and said, and just like quotes, "Well, Olive, I'm back again and I'm a little nervous. I just wanted to introduce myself again and ask if you could please give me some good luck." Then she said, "I wonder what the Follies girls would have thought of a female conductor." And just then, 4 of the round dressing room bulbs flickered on and off for a few seconds and then stopped. And she said the bulbs were like all new, had just been replaced in the new show. And she said it was like a wink, like she was signaling that she was fine with that idea. I thought that was really cool. I thought it was
that's like the so cool,
isn't it?
I love that.
Then, I know. And then Thomas may have made another appearance in the middle of the crowded New Amsterdam orchestra section. This part was also kind of like, it was really cool, but at the same time I was like really freaked out by it. So shortly after the opening of Aladdin in 2014, an audience member came up to one of the ushers during a performance and asked if she could have a booster seat for her child. The usher said that they don't like to interrupt a show, so they waited until after mission and they would come to her with a booster. But she had already found one. When we asked where she had gotten it, she said a lady at the back of the theater had gestured to where they were. They don't have a woman at the back of the house who would do that in the middle of a show, and they checked and none of the staff had done it. So that's terrifying. Like
that's Olive.
And then they said, so Amendola said that if there really are such things as ghosts, and if the New Amsterdam is indeed haunted by one, he's happy about it. We embrace it. She's never violent, always playful. She kind of embodies what we're all about here at Disney. We're in the business of happiness, and to have someone from so long ago acknowledging that she's pleased makes us feel like we're doing the right things. And I think that's true. I think that like this story is definitely a good like Disney theater ghost story. I think it works
It's a
so
very
well for
Disney
Disney
story.
theater. It is, and I feel like they should make a movie about it. I want an Olive movie.
And Disney should be the one to do it. Well, maybe.
Well, who else would do it? Disney would be like, she's ours. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but how would Disney deal with an overdose?
They don't have to include that. They could just have her as a ghost.
And they just like explain away her death. Because it needs to be about her
they don't
life.
Really have to talk about her death.
She's literally lived such a life.
Honestly, right. Like, I mean, she was a freaking chorus girl and she was in silent movies. There's so many things they could do, I think.
Yeah, it'd be so cool to see that.
Yes. But so that's the New Amsterdam ghost, and I'm very fascinated with her. I think she's so cool.
Me too. I love that.
I love her.
So the first theater that I'm going to be talking about is the Palace Theater, which is apparently has more ghosts than any other theater on Broadway, which is very exciting.
It has a lot. It's got like a lot.
Mm-hmm. So, just like Jill, I took from the same Playbill article and other sources as well, mix of other things, but Playbill really had it all. So apparently at the Palace Theater, there is a mysterious figure that passes through doorways at night, which is the epitome of any ghost.
Yes.
There's also apparently a child playing peekaboo in the mezzanine. I don't know how you figure out that. I guess if you're on stage rehearsing, terrifying. That would be so scary. Like you'd be like, whose kid's up there?
So scary.
Like right. I'm just imagining I'm just imagining like a little kid going like peeking their head out from behind the railing, and then I'd be like, somebody needs to be watching that child up there.
Yeah.
Like during rehearsals or something, or like sweeping the stage. You're like, that shouldn't happen. Right. And then there's apparently a musician all in white in the orchestra pit. But this is one of my favorite stories, and it's also like the scariest story, the spookiest story of it. Apparently, there's a ghost of an old vaudeville acrobat named Louis Borsellino, and they were an acrobat who fell to their death while tightrope walking. And apparently, people who see the apparition of this event die within a year of witnessing it. So if you're ever in the Palace, which you can't be for numerous reasons, A, it's quarantine, like lockdown, and B, they're renovating, they're doing a bunch of stuff to it, which is only going to activate the ghosts more. I don't understand. Like, it's literally the most haunted theater on Broadway, and you're trying to activate the ghosts.
Yeah. And I think it's so the tightrope walking ghosts that you talked about, I always feel like the ghosts with the most like aggressive and violent deaths are the most terrifying ghost stories. Like how you said, like if you like see it, like you die within the year, like that's terrifying. And I feel like it's because they died like falling to their death doing what they loved. Like that's so sad. That sucks.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's very violent. It's very aggressive.
Also, there are reports of a voice. People believe, back up. People believe that the theater is haunted also by Judy Garland, because
I did see that, yeah.
Judy played the Palace, much like Liza played the Palace. And I remember watching an interview of Annalee Ashford, and she said that when she would start the show as Margot in Legally Blonde, right before the show would start, she would always like acknowledge Judy, whether she was there or not, just acknowledge her presence, be like, Judy, love you. But the thing is, we don't actually know if the theater is haunted by Judy Garland. What we do know is that an actor once, while getting ready, heard somebody call for Judy, like say, Judy, like they were looking for her. And there wasn't anybody who actually said it present.
And there also wasn't it that there was nobody named Judy in the current like crew and everything. Yeah. I
There's nobody
read
named
that and
Judy.
that scared the hell out of me.
I would love it. Like, that's the wildest thing.
I mean, I would love that. Like, I would love if Judy Garland would haunt me. That's my dream. But like hearing someone just like calling for Judy, I'd be like, what?
Like,
No, thank you. I'm
and the
also
thing is,
afraid of
it's
everything.
Judy Garland. That's the thing, is
I mean, what other
it's
Judy is
Judy.
there? What other Judy is there?
That would be in the palace.
Or in any theater.
Give
me one other like major Broadway woman named Judy.
But apparently, according to cityguideny.com, this says a young boy also rolls trucks in the hallway behind the mezzanine. But Judy is known to appear apparently at the rear of the orchestra pit near a door built specifically for her to enter and exit from during her palace concerts. So
what?
Apparently they see her sometimes.
That's amazing.
I
love Judy Garland.
I do too. For me and my gal, love it.
Yeah.
It's wild. The palace also has a supposed former manager who's dressed in a brown suit who stalks the manager's office.
Solid.
And solid, like, I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Of your job, you want to stick around? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the palace.
A very like managerial type of ghost.
Oh my gosh. But apparently that musician in white will play the cello. And then you'll hear faint melodies from a Steinway piano late at night.
Interesting.
I remember watching an interview, and it was like Lea Michele and Jonathan Groff, or maybe it was just one of them, and they said that they definitely broke equity rules on the night before their last performance in Spring Awakening, and they like slept over in the Eugene O'Neill. And I'm like, excuse me, that's wild.
God. I've always wanted to like spend the night in a Broadway theater though. Like that's like on my bucket list. I want to do that. That sounds so much fun. I want it to be the Hirschfeld.
The Hirschfeld.
The Hirschfeld like with the Moulin Rouge loaded. Like no other show. I want the Moulin Rouge Hirschfeld.
No, I think I'd want the Palace or the New Amsterdam. Or
the New Amsterdam would actually be really interesting.
It'd be so much fun.
The Palace has too many. The Palace has too many ghosts. Like the New Amsterdam, I'm fine with.
I'd be too afraid to see the acrobat.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be fine with hanging out with Olive for the night though. She sounds like fun.
Yeah, she seems like she's a real with Olive. She sounds like she's a hoot and a half.
Yes.
All right, what's the next theater you got?
Tap dance together. The Belasco Theater, which I do need to put this out there first before I start talking about David Belasco, because I know that he was a really awful human being. He basically invented the the casting couch. He essentially invented that idea, which is disgusting. So I need to put it out there that David Belasco is or was not a good human being, and I think we need to acknowledge that because he honestly was kind of messed up. So all that being said, this story is actually really interesting. So the Belasco Theater, named after David Belasco, it was, let's see. So he was like huge name in the 19th century, like huge like theater owner, producer, playwright, whatever. So he built the Belasco Theater in 1907, but only like decades later was it named after him, I believe, because it wasn't. I don't think it was originally named the Belasco, if I remember correctly. I could be entirely wrong though. But let's see. He wrote two of the most famous like melodramas of all time, which is Giacomo Puccini, who I love a Puccini opera. He wrote Madama Butterfly and La I can never say this one. La Fonciella del West. I don't know if I said that right. But yeah, so he loved theater a lot. He spent like every second of his day at the theater, writing, managing, directing, whatever he could do. He also spent like every night at the theater. So he made his home in an apartment above his theater on West 44th. And he spent so much of his life in that building that he is also spending his death there because he's a ghost haunting this theater. And he is one of the most alive looking theater ghosts, apparently. So he's not like Olive, who's just like a little woman and like a wispy ghost type of way. He's like very much like a realistic human being. So it says he appears much as he did in life, which is tall with tousled hair and wearing the Catholic and clerical collar that was his lifelong affectation.
Why?
He was known during his life, because he was known, I'm getting into that. He said he was known during his life as the Bishop of Broadway.
Okay.
Which I think is really funny. Those who have seen him but don't know his story have nicknamed him, his ghost, as the monk. Which is also pretty, yeah. There was nothing monk-like about his lifestyle. Like I said, he basically invented the casting couch. That's not necessarily something that a monk would do, but he did kind of look like one because of the clerical collar and everything. What else is there? There's like, he's a very like involved guy. Shortly after his death in 1931 was when he started to show himself in the theater. So actors stepping on the stage, completely unaware, would suddenly notice a lone, dark figure sitting in the balcony and watching them intently. And the ghost had a voice too. He would walk right up to actors and shake their hands, telling them they'd done a fine job at a performance. More than one actor filed complaints with the house. Yeah. More than one actor filed complaints with the house manager that an old man dressed up like a priest has pinched their asses. Not even kidding you. Yes.
So wait, these actors thought it was another actor? Or did they think it was well, there's no way they thought it was another actor. They knew who was in their cast. They just thought like some rando guy got in.
Well, they were like, I don't know who this person is. And he just like keeps pinching my ass. What is this about? Like, that's terrifying. The uninitiated were often horrified, but veteran actors looked forward to these meetings, seeing them as a good omen. I would not, no offense, but that's not a good omen. It's terrifying. And Belasco isn't alone because there's another ghost. There's a spirit known as the Blue Lady. She appears as an icy cold blue mist. So not like Belasco. She's like an actual like ectoplasmic being, like most other ghosts are. She's been seen on the theater stairways and dressing rooms, and there are reports of the sound of, how do you say, okay, I don't know how to say this word, but they're like crazy parties being held in the Belasco apartment, complete with the sound of feet dancing the 1920s era music.
What's the word you can't pronounce?
Raucous? Is that how you say
raucous?
R-A-U-C-O-U-S? Is that
raucous.
How you say it?
Raucous. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just an idiot then. But then when workers would get upstairs to see who's broken in, the apartment is completely empty and the dust is undisturbed. So like this woman is throwing parties in this apartment. But Plato actually took a video camera up to the Belasco apartment in 2010, and the apartment was like completely the way that it was, whatever, and there are no plans at all to like renovate it or anything like that, which I find very interesting.
They're just not even going to convert it into like office space or anything. They're just leaving an empty room.
Yeah.
At the Belasco.
So it says, the apartment.
That sounds.
I don't know, but it says the apartment, ghost or not, would rent for millions if they ever put it back on the market.
Yeah.
So
like, I would just assume they would turn it into like office space.
You would think, but I don't know. I think it's also they don't want to disturb
David Belasco.
They don't want to piss him off. There's another ghost, I believe. That's a lie. No, this is what it was. I was misreading this. Melissa Errico, who played Mina, is it Mina in Dracula's Musical? I don't know anything about Dracula's Musical. I don't know if it's Mina or I don't know. But she reported that Belasco does indeed haunt the theater. So she said, my dresser, Kathy, saw him walk into a mirror the other day, and she thinks he lives in the mirror on the wall outside my dressing room. One night, I forgot my coat, and I had turned out the lights in my room. I turned back to get my coat in the dark, and someone, David, turned the small, pretty table light on for me to see my way. It was spooky. As I opened the door to leave, as I was walking out, someone closed the door behind me. I didn't touch it, but I watched it move, which is crazy.
Spooky.
And then getting into the spirit, I thought this was really cute though. So getting in the spirit of their supernatural musical, the cast of Dracula celebrated Velasquez's 150th birthday that year with a cake and sang happy birthday to him. I thought that was cute. During the run of Passing Strange, which I think
I love Passing Strange. I love Passing Strange. That music is amazing. It's so good.
During the run of Passing Strange in 2008, Daniel Breaker told Playbill in an interview that one evening he was putting on his makeup in his dressing room mirror when he saw an old man with white hair sitting behind him, silently watching him. When Breaker turned around to demand what he was doing there, the man, who resembled nobody working on the show, was gone. Breaker reported the incident to the house manager and was told, "You just saw David Belasco." Like, that's crazy. And
you're like, oh wait, and now what are we gonna do about that? Because I don't want that to happen again.
Right, like he's like, I'm terrified of this. What is this? Dominic Brewer, who appeared in 12th Night and Richard III, said that he hadn't spotted Mr. Belasco or any of the theater's like ghosts or anything. But with the white makeup several of the cast wear for 12th Night, along with the eerie gliding of the female characters, you'd be forgiven for thinking you'd spotted a ghost backstage, which I think is really funny. They did have a strange happening on stage, though. One evening, the candles on one of our 6 hanging candelabras completely burnt down, probably twice as quickly as all the others, without any perceptible draft or obvious external influence, an unsolved mystery. That was interesting. I thought that was cool.
Ooh.
But apparently, it's been pretty quiet since like the 2010 renovation. But to tease him out, the creators of Hedwig and the Angry Inch actually wrote Belasco into the script. So like each night, Neil Patrick Harris and his successors asked if anyone in Box B had seen the ghost, but there were no takers. Nevertheless, Wallace said, "I can tell you that the front door of my office especially locks itself from time to time, and I know it isn't me doing it." I thought that was really interesting that they wrote him into it without like explicitly saying his name.
That's interesting. I don't remember that. I did see Hedwig on Broadway. I don't remember that happening, but I don't. Again, when I first saw Hedwig, I was so confused what was happening the entire time, and I didn't get it. And then I saw it the second time I saw it, I was like, "Oh, I get it. I get it." And the third time, I was like, "This is great." But both second and third time were not at the Belasco; they were at the Pantages.
A friend of mine is like obsessed with the movie, so he's always trying to get me to watch it. But like, I think I tried watching it, and I was like, I don't know if this is for me. Like, I don't know if this is what I would want to watch.
It's a weird show. Yeah, it sure is a weird show. I didn't understand what was happening the first time I saw it. I was like, this music's great. Love that I'm watching Darren Criss and Rebecca Naomi Jones, but I have no idea what's happening. I cannot follow the story. And the second time I saw it, I'm like, oh, I get it. I love it. And then the third time I was like, this is so beautiful.
Yeah.
So yes, I have been in the Belasco once, and I've been in the Palace once. I have not been in the New Amsterdam.
I've never been in the Belasco, but every time I think of the Belasco, I think of Smash.
Why? Is that the theater that Bombshell's in?
Where Bombshell? Yeah.
I haven't watched Smash since it originally aired.
I love Smash. It makes me happy.
I do too, but I just haven't watched it.
I'm gonna rewatch Smash.
You should. All right.
I'm gonna do it.
Is that the end of the Belasco?
Yes.
Okay, so the next one that I have is, of course, the Richard Rodgers, a theater I do love. According to Blanca Camacho, there are reappearing red lipstick smudges in the ladies' room. They got painted and wiped, but they will always return. And then stall doors will open by themselves, which I think a haunted bathroom is disgusting. Like, why haunt a bathroom of all things? I don't get it. And,
curvy.
And then, like every other theater, you'll hear strange sounds and things will fall off the shelves. But the weirdest thing is apparently after hours, you'll hear like weird howling sounds and the chandeliers will move and you'll hear people walking. But this is like when apparently nobody's in the theater, which is wild. And
Yeah.
then Jimmy, the doorman, has like armed himself with a baseball bat before, which I don't know what a baseball bat does
Also,
for
what
a
if it would
ghost.
agitate the ghost?
I know, you're just like gonna go right through it.
It'd be
But
like
I
going
mean,
to
if you
find an
don't know it's a
alien with a
ghost,
baseball bat.
yeah. But I mean, if you don't know it's a ghost, you're just like, I'm ready
That's
to
true.
take out a trespasser. And
Yeah.
then apparently, 3 different people have told Blanca about redheads. They see her in box B about 2 a.m. and they'll see another guy in the mezzanine in row H. And then there was cast member Tony. Oh, I'm gonna butcher this last name. I want to say it's Chiroldes, has twice felt the presence of his mother, who was also an actress at times, and she was also a redhead. And none of these people knew of the other people's stories. So there are redheads just like roaming the Richard Rogers, which I think is very interesting.
That's fascinating.
I know. Can you imagine? It's like nothing really like spooky or scary happened there. Just like it's just a beacon and a hub for all redheads to just congregate in the afterlife. They're like, oh, so that's where you'll see a couple other people when who knows what happens. Yeah, it's wild. What else? What else? What else? During a company meeting, Tony saw a door open fully and close slowly all by itself, but they dismissed it until they heard these other stories. And then apparently these are all benevolent beings, and I think that the Richard Rogers would be a great place to spot a ghost. You see a random redhead just like
I
floating
want
there,
to
and
see
you'd be like, just of all the most random things to be, just a redhead.
a redhead.
Just a redhead.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the Richard Rogers.
So the Stephen Sondheim Theater, which I wanted to talk about this one because I love Stephen Sondheim. This one's not as like interesting of a story. Like it's a really short story, not really much to it. But Kevin Duda, I think that's how you say his name, who played Neil Sedaka in Beautiful, the Carole King musical, said in the spring of 2014 that he had stayed late one night at the theater, walked up to the stage door and realized he'd forgotten something in his dressing room. He noticed the old Henry Miller sign, which hangs over a security desk. Henry Miller, the Stephen Sondheim Theater was built on the site of the old Henry Miller's theater.
Was it built on the site or was it just renamed? Because I thought it was just renamed.
It was built on the site. It was rebuilt on the site, I believe.
Oh.
I think. I read a couple different things, but the majority of the things I saw were that it was rebuilt. But I could be wrong.
Keep going. I'm gonna figure this out.
He noticed the old Henry Miller sign, which hangs over a security desk at the stage door. And as he returned to the elevator to go back downstairs, he said under his breath, "Wow, I wonder what Henry Miller thinks of this sign being relegated to the stage door." And the elevator bounced and stopped, and he was stuck. He screamed for 5 minutes, and finally Adolf, their head of security, came to his rescue and pried the doors open. He said, "I have never said Henry Miller's name in this theater again." Like, it's very much like a Macbeth situation. Like, you never say it in that theater again.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I thought that was really, really creepy. I thought it was really interesting though, because like I love the whole like you can't say this name in this place kind of a story, like Macbeth. Like when we did Macbeth at our school like a year ago, I think, we just called it Mackers. Like that's just like what you call it because it's like you can't say Macbeth in the theater.
The Scottish play, all those names.
And now we don't even say Macbeth, like even when we're just talking about it, we all just say Mackers because we got so used to calling it Mackers.
Okay, so I'm on the Wikipedia page for the Stephen Sondheim Theater. So it opened on April 1st, 1918 as the Henry Miller Theater, and it was that all the way through 1968. And then in 1968, it showed feature films and then it eventually became a porn theater. And then,
How
you know,
iconic.
and then in 1978, it was turned into like a disco, like a discotheque. And then in 1998, it briefly returned to being a theater as the Kit Kat Club for Cabaret through Roundabout. And then 2001, the Kit Kat Club and a venue for private parties until it closed on April 11th, 2000. And then it was rechristened the name Henry Miller when Urinetown reopened in 2001. But the theater closed in 2004 and it was rebuilt by the Durst organization. Okay. And then it was briefly, so it reopened. When did it reopen? In 2007. Oh no, sorry. It reopened in 2009 with Bye Bye Birdie, and that was the production with John Stamos. I don't know why I remember that, but John Stamos was in that production.
I forget about that. I think I just forget about Bye Bye Birdie.
Yeah. And then on March 22nd, 2010, on his 80th birthday, Roundabout announced that it would be renamed the Stephen Sondheim.
The love of my life. The only man that will truly understand me.
The LOML.
I love him so much. I don't know who I would be without Stephen Sondheim.
Sondheim definitely has shaped part of my personality. I talk a lot about, like, Into the Woods isn't my favorite musical, but I will say this. It has some of the most, like, poignant lyrics in any show ever. It is one of the most beautiful, like, beautifully written lyrically shows.
Because, like, with Stephen Sondheim, I mean, I grew up listening to, like, West Side Story and watching the movie and everything. But, like, I think for me, what did Stephen Sondheim for me is definitely Company. Because, like, I think I listened to that for the first time when I was, like, 13 or 14. And it didn't really, like, hit hard or anything with me. I was 13 or 14 years old. I couldn't relate to a 35-year-old man who was, like, having a mental breakdown about his life. But
when I was like 15, I was like, I get it.
Honestly though,
marry me a little.
Same. Yeah. But then, like,
love me just enough.
When I first got to see it for the first time when I was 18 years old, I, like, was a fresh college graduate or high school graduate. I'm still in college. High school graduate. Like, I drove like 14 hours to go and see this show in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, to see Aaron Tveit do it at the Berkshire Theater Company, I think is where it was.
No, Barrington.
I could be wrong
about it. Was it Barrington Stage?
Barrington Stage Company. It was in the Berkshires, Barrington Stage Company. Thank you. And there was just something, I had, like, a weird thing happen to me that night. Like, I felt like that show was everything to me. Like, there is every single actor in that show was so perfectly cast. Everything about it was just so good. And since then, Company has been my favorite musical of all time.
And that's how
number 2. I love Assassins.
And that's how I feel about another Sondheim musical. That's how I feel about Merrily We Roll Along. When I saw that show, it was at the, like, I couldn't have seen that show at a more perfect time in my life. It was 2016. I was a senior in college, and I was like, Michael Arden is directing a Stephen Sondheim musical. I need to see it. Because I really liked the song Opening Doors. Like, I really loved that song. And I'm like, oh, I should go see the show that it's about. And, like, Wayne Brady was in it. And I was like, of course, I have to see Wayne Brady. And Aaron Lazar and Donna Vivino were were Charlie, Frank, and Mary, respectively. And I saw that show, and at the end of the show, by the time Opening Doors happened, I started openly weeping, because you would, like, see, for anybody who doesn't know, Merrily We Roll Along works backwards. Like, you see them at the end of their story, and then by the end of the show, they're at the beginning of their story. and they're singing with such hope and determination and life that they want to see happen. And when it really hits differently when you know what's about to happen for them and all of these things that they want to happen. And it was just, I was at that, when I saw it, I was at the place that they were at the beginning of the show. And I'm like, oh my God, life in the arts is going to be so hard. And yeah, it is, but it's also so fulfilling.
Yeah.
Anyway, I could talk about Merrily Roll Along for hours.
I had a very like similar experience though when I saw Company, because like Being Alive is still, it is, I hate saying this because I say this about a bunch of songs, but Being Alive is the greatest musical theater song ever written, and I stand by that. I think it is
absolutely
so
it is
good. It is so good. It is the hardest song to perform ever, and I love it. And so the first time I got to see it, which having it be Aaron Tveit being like my first experience seeing it live and seeing it, because I'd heard like Neil Patrick Harris, I'd heard Raul Esparza, but I'd never gotten to see it. And so the fact that it was like Aaron Tveit, who was someone that I had admired for a while at that point, and I loved everything that he did, and then getting to hear him and see him perform this so, like everything about it was just so raw and so real and just so beautiful. And like I literally started like weeping in the middle of the performance, because, and I was like front row too, so it was super embarrassing. But I was like just like weeping because I was like, I feel this, man. And the whole show is like accurate to my life, because everyone in my life is always in a relationship and I'm just never in one. And like I'm fine with it, but at the same time I'm like, I'm with somebody. Like it's like I'm so much like Bobby. Like I see so much of myself in Bobby. And I've always like, I have wanted to play Bobby for so long. I know I can't do it vocally. Acting wise, I think I could, but vocally I could never. But I love that they finally gender bent Company. I have been waiting.
And didn't Sondheim himself say that he should have written it that way to begin with?
He did. He was like, I don't know why I didn't do this in the first place. This is brilliant. And that's the thing though about Company, is like it was ahead of its time when it was first written. It was like the early 70s, like late 60s, early 70s. And it was so ahead of its time. You didn't really talk about stuff like that in musical theater or like in, you know, mainstream art anyways. And so the fact that he like wrote it so well and like so beautifully, it was like so ahead of its time. And now having it gender bent, it's very modernized. And I think that that's really, really special.
So do I. The one and only time I've heard Being Alive sung live was Sondheim on Sondheim at the Hollywood Bowl. It was Jonathan Groff singing it to 17,000 people. But the thing that most, and he was so good. He was so good. The thing that most, that I will always remember and always get like chills from that performance was, or I should say that like production of Sondheim on Sondheim, was the second the opening notes of like Sunday played, the like collective gasp amongst the audience. And this is an open air, like like couldn't even call it amphitheater. There we go.
It's like an amphitheater. Yes,
it is an amphitheater. Yeah, it was like a collective gasp that I will never forget. And you just heard like it was so beautiful. And that's how they like ended the first act.
That. Oh, I love that. That's like with Company. My all-time favorite Bobby is Raul Esparza. I love Raul Esparza and everything that he does. I think he's one of the most talented human beings on the planet. But I desperately want to see this revival. Like,
me too.
Katrina Lenk, come on.
Katrina
She's
Lenk,
like one of the most talented women of all time. Like,
Chris Fitzgerald,
so good.
Matt Doyle, Patti LuPone. I will talk about Patti LuPone. I love Patti.
Patti.
Oh my God, yeah.
Etai Benson,
yeah. Who I think was also in The Band's Visit.
Yes, he was. Band's Visit is so beautiful.
Oh God, I know. I'm so bummed that like the tour didn't get to us before.
We cannot keep mentioning Steven Sondheim because it gets us so off topic.
I mean, we can. Literally, the name of our podcast is Thought Shared, Souls Bared. We are.
We can talk
Why
about
can't we
Sondheim
be a
all we
Sondheim?
want.
Literally, the name of our podcast gives us the
We
freedom
just
to do
need
so.
to have whole episodes where I discuss Company and you discuss Merrily.
Okay, I have a genuine question for you regarding ghosts in Broadway theaters. Do you
Yes.
believe in ghosts?
Yes. I
You do?
absolutely believe in ghosts. Absolutely. Are you
Have you ever had an experience?
No. But I don't know, like my subconscious has, but I don't think I actually have. I think that like my paranoia disorder has experienced that. Where like I think I have, but I think I'm just being paranoid. But I thought that there was a ghost in my dorm room freshman year, and I think I still fully believe that he has followed me to this apartment that I'm in. And my roommate has none of it. She hates it. She doesn't believe in ghosts, but at the same time, she won't let me do a Ouija board. And I'm like, why not? And she's like, I'm not touching any of that. And I'm like, so you believe in it? And then she'll go, no, I don't. And I'm like, whatever. I don't believe you. But I fully believe in ghosts.
I do too. I don't know if
it's
this
because
is
of Disney.
Yeah. I don't know if this is like a ghost experience.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is like an actual ghost experience. Did I tell you about this? It happened in January. It happened when I was in San Francisco. Did I tell you what happened to me in San Francisco? Jill.
I don't think so.
I don't know how I didn't tell you this. So when I went to San Francisco in January, I was supposed to go up with one of my friends. She ended up having to like bail on the whole trip. And so I drove up by myself. This isn't the ghost part. So we had booked a hotel room that was a double bed room because I like having my own bed when I'm on like I'll sleep in the same bed as a person, but I like having my own bed. But right. So the first night I get in, everything's fine. The second day, I get out of the hotel, I get myself some breakfast, I get myself a little coffee, I get myself some Zicam because I was sick. And I'm just like popping zinc tablets the entire time. And then I go back into my hotel room, and then because my friend and I and her boyfriend are going to see not Hedwig and the Orange, oh my gosh, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, parts 1 and 2. Yeah. So we're going to spend that entire day seeing Harry Potter. And so I leave I should mention this. Every time I got into the elevator in this hotel, every person was going to the 6th floor. That is where I was staying, on the 6th floor. Every single time, somebody would push the 6th floor, and everyone else who was in there would be like, oh yeah, that's my floor too. And I was like, that's a little sketch. So I'm getting, my friend texted me that she's almost in front of the hotel. So I leave my room, and there's also a rave happening across the street. And so there's ravers staying in our hotel, which like, fine, yeah. I'm friends with ravers. Like that's nothing to be weirded out about. And right. So I see people in like, they're clearly dressed and they're going to a rave. And I'm wearing like a long black polka dot dress, my coat, some like tights, I'm good. And then one person is like, it was either one guy and 2 girls or 2 guys and 1 girl. I don't remember. But one guy is like, your dress is so cute. And I was like, oh, thank you. We're still waiting for the elevator.
Yeah.
And then the girl was like, you're so beautiful. And then I was like, oh, thank you. And I'm so uncomfortable at this point. And she's like, no, like you are so beautiful. And she takes her hand and she like puts it on my face. And this was pre-COVID. Actually, the United States would learn about COVID like a week later, not even kidding. And San Francisco would end up being a hotspot. And she like puts her hand on my face, and she's like, and I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. And I'm like shutting down. I'm going full catatonic at this point. And then the elevator finally opens, and we get in there, and I'm just like, I hate that I'm in an elevator with these people right now. We make it to the lobby, and then I'm waiting for my friend, and then she's like, okay, we're in front. And so then I go out, and we have the whole day together. Coming back, I was nervous Because I'm like, these people, I'm afraid about these people. So I my hotel room, it's like I missed it the first time I went looking for it.
Yeah.
It was directly in front. So imagine like a T. The elevators face each other on like the stem of the T, and on the top of the T is where all of the hotel rooms are. Mine was at the very middle of this top of the T, so right at the intersection. I completely missed it the first time I saw it. So I get off the elevator. I think I was by myself at this point, but there's a single red Solo cup in front of my door, in the middle of the floor, in front of my door. And I'm like, I am terrified. These ravers came and put something there. I don't know what it's there. So I move it across with my foot. And then I hear buzzing happening from the other side of the door. And I'm like, what the fuck? What is this? Like, what is happening? And then I'm like, okay. I'm like prepping myself. I'm like getting ready. I'm like, if there is somebody in my room, I need to be prepared. So I had like my phone in my hand, and then I had my key card to get into the hotel room. I put the key card in, and I'm still hearing this like buzzing, this like static buzzing from the other side of the door. And then I open the door, and I swing it open enough so that I can see inside my room. The buzzing immediately stops. And the clock, which looks kind of exactly like this one, which was on the desk that was right by the door, it flashes to like 12:01. It was 11 o'clock. And there had been like issues with that clock the entire time, meaning it had like just restart. So the time on the clock changed, the buzzing stopped, and I'm like totally spooked in my room. So I have the flashlight on my phone, and I go into the bathroom, and I like pull across the shower curtain. Nothing's in there. I open the closet, which is like a super old closet, like has like one of those doorknobs that are like kind of rickety. And I open and I'm like looking everywhere with my flashlight. Nothing's in there. I look, and because there are two beds, I have to check two separate spots.
Oh my God.
So I have to go in, and I'm like, okay, nothing's there. Nothing's there. And at one point, I'm just sitting in my bedroom, and I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. I pack everything up, and I just go back downstairs, and I'm like, hi, do you have any other rooms? I cannot be in this room. And he's like, why? Was there something wrong? And I'm like, and I straight up told him, I have bad vibes in this room. I can't do this. And he's like, we're actually booked for the night. You can, and I was staying one more night. It's like, you can try back tomorrow, but we don't have anything. And I'm like, fine. And then so I get back on the elevator. Like, I assessed all my options. I'm like, I can find another hotel, or I can just tough it out for the night. And I said, I'm just going to tough it out for the night. I don't want to spend more money because I was the next week I was going to New York.
Right.
And so I get into the elevator, and then another guy gets on with me, like a man. And it's like me and like a grown man by ourselves. And I press 6, and he goes, oh, that's mine. And I go, nope, can't do this. And I just get off the elevator. And I'm like, I can't do this. And I get off the elevator. I was so spooked. And I like called my friend. I'm like, I need to be on the phone with somebody as I'm going up to my bedroom, going up to my hotel room.
Oh,
I couldn't do it. It was wild. And then there's this podcast I listened to called Ghosted by Roz Dressfelez. So, because I love all things ghosty. And Roz Dressfelez, who's a drag queen here in LA, he has, and everywhere, but he's based in LA. He was talking about how he and his friend had gone to San Francisco, and they were talking about how the hotel that I was staying in and they stayed in was haunted on the 6th floor. So, and this like totally checks out, because on the desk in the hotel room there was like a book. So it was like one of America's most like historic hotels or something, like a big book of like every hotel that's that makes the list. And there were little icons on the bottom of each page And I was like, oh, I don't know what those are. And then I flipped to it when I had like got back to my room, and I was like, whatever. I flip to the page and I see a little icon, and it's a little ghost icon, and that means that it's haunted. Like the answer, like the key says it's haunted, and I'm just like, cool. So like I was on the haunted floor, and everything scary happened. Did I see those?
Oh my
No. Do I think
God.
that's very sketchy? Absolutely. Because every single
Absolutely.
person I was on that, every person that I got on that elevator with was also going to the sixth floor.
That's crazy though. Dude, okay, have you ever stayed in the Roosevelt, yeah, the Roosevelt Hotel in Midtown?
Yes.
You have? Okay. So I stayed there with my parents. It was like my first trip to
That's
New
the
York
one
with my
that's the one
parents.
that's on like Lexington, right? It's like way midtown. It's like Midtown East. It's not even like in the theater district.
It's like 2 blocks from the theater district. Like it's a walking distance to Schmackery's.
Oh, well then no.
It's
I
on
think
$45.
are you thinking of the Edison Hotel?
No, I'm talking about the Roosevelt.
No, because I definitely stayed at the Roosevelt.
Hold on. I'm pretty sure the Roosevelt's on 45th because we walked to Schmackery's.
No, I stayed at some hotel. Hold on. Hotel.
The Roosevelt is
Hotel.
on East 45th,
No, but look at the cross streets.
Vanderbilt.
Yeah, which is in like Lexington. It's like right by Lexington.
I
It's
think
way
so.
east.
Yeah, it's like, yeah,
It's not
Lexington's
within
like,
walking distance of Schmackery's.
I'm,
I think that you're thinking of the Edison.
I could have sworn it was the Roosevelt. Hold on.
Because I know what hotel you're talking about. You're talking about the one that's like across the street from the Richard Rogers and like next to the Scientology building.
No, not that one.
No.
No,
Oh my God, you can get a $71 a night ticket stay at the Roosevelt.
which is cheap.
Yeah. I've never seen a hotel that. Oh my God, these hotel prices are.
Yeah, because the Roosevelt is like down here. You can't really see it, but the Roosevelt's like
Let
on
me see.
45th, and it's literally a straight shot, 20 minutes up to Schmackery's.
Yeah, 20 minutes.
Well, yeah, but it didn't feel like 20 minutes when I was walking you the last time.
But so we're both talking about the same hotel, right?
I think so,
With
yeah.
like the
But
grand entrance and like
yeah,
marble stairs. Yeah.
yeah.
I've said there.
Okay, so I stayed there with my parents. It was like um 2019. I went 2018. It's 2018 because we went and saw Wicked and Waitress for my birthday. It was a birthday trip.
That's wild. That's when I stayed there too.
Really?
January.
Oh, mine was February. So it was literally right
Mm.
after. So my parents like took me to New York for my birthday to see a couple shows, and like it was their first time seeing Broadway shows. I was really excited to go with them. And my mom was like, "Oh, well, we got like a really good deal on Expedia, like with our plane ticket and like booking your plane ticket and our hotel and everything." And I was like, "Oh,
I love
cool,
Expedia. I always use Expedia.
same, it's amazing." So I was like, "Oh, well, like what hotel are we staying at?" Because like normally we stay at a Choice Hotel because my mom is like a member or whatever with Choice Hotels, and whenever she used to like travel for work and stuff. And she was like, "I think it's like the Roosevelt," and I was like, "The Roosevelt?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Do you know anything about the Roosevelt?" And she was like, "No." And I was like, "That's where they filmed like a lot of like movies. Like that's like supposed to be like a really like creepy hotel. Like it's apparently like really like haunted and everything. I don't know any of the ghost stories, but like I've heard so many things like about it being haunted." And my mom was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And so like she was like, "I'm sure it'll be fine. It's not a big deal." Because my mom like loves to be like, "I don't believe in ghosts," and I'm like, "I know you do. Don't even." So we like get there, we check in and everything, and it's so beautiful. Like it's one of the most beautiful hotel lobbies I've ever seen. It's stunning. And I immediately was like, "This was in Ghostbusters." I was like, "This was definitely in Ghostbusters." And my mom goes, "It was in Ghostbusters?" And my dad goes, "This is literally in Ghostbusters." And so my mom starts like, she's like, "I'm sure it'll be fine. It's okay." And I was like, "Okay." And then like I like was googling like all the shows and movies that have like been filmed at the Roosevelt and everything, and I found out that Brain Dead had been filmed at the Roosevelt in one of the ballrooms, and I was like, "Wait, it was filmed in one of the ballrooms? Like, what scene was it?" And like I was obsessed with Brain Dead. I still am obsessed with Brain Dead. But it was like the tax prom scene, and the show was filmed in one of the ballrooms. So like me being a mess was like, can I go find this ballroom? Because I want to just like sit in it. Like I just want to like experience this. And my dad was like, no, you're not leaving. I was like, fine. So we get up, we like get on the elevator and everything. The elevator is creepy and it looks like straight out of Tower of Terror.
I
Like
don't remember.
I remember just like the exterior of it, like the doors and everything, it looked old. Like you could tell that like this was an old hotel, which I love usually, but like after being like, this wasn't Ghostbusters, like I was a little freaked out. So it looked really old and everything. And my sister, who was like living in New York at the time, came and like was hanging out with us and everything. And so she like gets there and she's like, this is creepy. I was like, this is like definitely haunted. Because we get up to our floor, and I'm pretty sure that we were on like the 12th or 13th floor. So that was already really freaking creepy. And so we get up to like our room and everything. And like as soon as you step off the elevator, I'm like, this is haunted. Like it looked haunted. Like everything about it just looked so old and so creepy.
I
And
remember.
like the rooms were fine, but the hallways and everything were so.
See, I don't remember anything about that. I remember there being like no outlets in the hotel rooms though.
That too. That was really annoying.
And I was like, excuse me, I need to like charge some things.
Right. Like my dad.
We ended up having to like plug it into the TV at one point.
Because like me and my dad are like insane and we travel with like all of our technology. So like I had my iPad, I had my phone, I had like, I'm pretty sure I took my laptop because I think I had like some schoolwork to do. It was like during the semester. And then like my dad had his iPad and his work phone and his regular phone and like all this stuff. And I was like, we need to stop traveling with so much technology because there are zero outlets every time that we need them.
That's when I learned to travel with a power strip.
Yes. Oh my God. Honestly. But yeah, so the Roosevelt was definitely haunted. I didn't have any weird experiences there, but I could feel it in my bones. I knew it was haunted.
What do you think about the theory that all theater ghosts, like there's not necessarily a theater ghost as much as it is just the energy, residual energy from actors? Like, what do you think about that?
I've heard about it vaguely, so I don't really like, I don't know, I had never really heard about it much. But I think, I don't know, because it's like, it's honestly viable. Because like actors have so much like energy. Like, and live theater in and of itself is like a lot of energy. Because I know I was talking a couple weeks ago with a couple people in the theater department here at my school, and they were like, we had just finished doing 2 like shorter plays, and like we broadcast them over Zoom instead of having people come to them. And they were like, it was weird. Like they were like, we couldn't like feed off of anybody. And like live theater, like filming live theater is different than like filming a television show or like filming something like that, because it's like there are certain things in plays and stuff that like when you say you are needing like an audience reaction of some sort. And so like I think that since live theater does have so much energy connected to it, I think that that's honestly very plausible.
Yeah. I mean, I believe it because sometimes things will just happen and it's not like you're seeing an apparition. It's just.
And it's also like when you get done with the show, you are wired. Like you literally are like so wired that like you can't sleep for like hours.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so I mean, who knows? Honestly, it could be everything.
Yeah. Anyway.
It could be ghosts playing jokes on actors who are really wired and exhausted for shows.
They're like, I did this. This happened to me. It's gonna happen to you too.
Yeah.
What a topic.
What a topic. I love that topic. I love a theater.
I love ghosts. I love just talking about ghosts. And like the whole point of like a ghost light is to keep the ghosts at bay and give them and the dark day in a theater is to give them their opportunity. I mean, yes, it is also for actors to have a break, but also it's also for ghosts to have their time to perform.
Should we discuss why I love ghost stories, theater ghost stories so much?
Sure, explain it, because I'm not sure I know.
Because like I think I told you about it the other day. I and I was infatuated with Abraham Lincoln when I was a kid.
Oh, yes, you did tell me that.
Yes, so I was like I was obsessed with Abraham Lincoln as a kid, and there was just like, I don't know, it's because like when you're a kid and you're taught about all these presidents, you're taught about them being great people, and so like Abraham Lincoln was like, he freed slaves, and I was like, hell yeah, I love that. Like I was like, sign
And
me
then as you
up.
get and then as you get older, you realize there's like this complete dichotomy to every single president that's ever existed.
Exactly, like every president is a
You're
war
like, they're
criminal in
human.
some sort of way, and like
Hmm.
yeah, so it's like, oh okay,
Everyone
cool.
except William Henry Harrison.
Poor guy.
Poor dude.
I love that we probably only know that because of Parks and Rec. Like we only know
Absolutely.
information about it because of
Well,
Parks
no,
and
no, 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 no,
Rec.
no. Here's the thing. I knew there was a president who only lived for 30 days of his presidency
Yeah,
because I want to say it was in like 2004. It might have been in 2000. Nickelodeon was running this commercial to like inform people about the election.
yeah,
Um, and at one point they mentioned that. And then they also like they associated each person with something. And for him, and I
yeah.
never remembered who it was, but they associated him with only living 3 days. Nixon was I resign. And then and Reagan's was a monkey because I guess he did a movie with a monkey when he was a movie star.
Yeah,
Um, and those are the only ones I remember right now. But
I
they
love
did
that.
that, and I was always like 30 days, what?
He
So,
died of
but
the flu.
but that's how I remember that. But Parks and Rec definitely let me remember his name.
Oh, absolutely. But I was like so obsessed with Abraham Lincoln as a kid, and when I was learning about Abraham Lincoln, the only thing like aside from like freeing the slaves and everything that we learned about was like how he died. And even then, we weren't really taught much about Donald Booth. It was mostly just Abraham Lincoln, um, which is valid. Donald Booth was a horrible human being, but it was like I don't know, like something about like not being taught any of that, like any of the stuff about Donald Booth made me more interested in him because growing up, I always loved a villain story. Gaston was my favorite character in Beauty and the Beast. He still is. Like I love a villain, like Cruella de Vil, sign me up. So I was like so
The Duke in
interested
Moulin
in
Rouge.
Donald. Exactly, I love it. So I was like obsessed with not obsessed with Donald Booth, but I was like obsessed with learning about him and like I wanted to know more about him. And when I found out he was an actor, I was like, oh shit. I was like, that's it for me. I love this story already. I was like, this is so fascinating to me already. And so I was kind of just like I read about him all I could and like whatever way that I could learn about Donald Booth and Abraham Lincoln, like in any possible way I could, I learned about him. And so when I found out how Lincoln died, like when I was taught how Lincoln died, I was like, that's so interesting. I was like, there is no way that this man isn't just haunting the Ford Theater. Like, absolutely no way that this man doesn't haunt the Ford Theater. I haven't really looked into it much recently, so like I don't remember if like there are any ghost stories about him, but I think it would be interesting to just like hang out in the Ford Theater for a little bit to see what would happen. But like then when I don't know, I think I was 14 when I first listened to Assassins and I heard Ballad of Booth for the first time. I was like, wow. Ballad of Booth is like one of my favorite songs. It's so good. But
It is.
I love
It's real
Assassins
good.
because it doesn't make you feel bad for these people. Like you definitely
Mm-mm.
understand them, but you don't feel bad for them, which is
No,
important, I think.
I love I love this song. Um, Unworthy of Your Love. I
Oh, I
think it
love
makes me
Unworthy of Your
laugh.
Love.
It makes me laugh
So
so
good.
hard. Oh my
Yeah,
God, it makes me laugh so hard. But it's like it's so
so
funny
good.
because like my dad, when were the Manson murders? That was in like the early 60s, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. My dad's family had like probably just moved to like LA and all of a sudden like all of these like murders were happening around them. I'm just like my dad distinctly remembers it.
And the other thing about Assassins is like cause did you hear about the like original beginning of the musical during the Sondheim concert in March? Like, I don't remember. I think it was Brian Stokes Mitchell like tweeted it. Someone tweeted it when, or was it Brian Stokes Mitchell was singing the song?
I don't remember,
like,
but I remember
someone sang a cut song from Assassins, and then tweeted. I think it was Brian Stokes Mitchell sang it, and then tweeted like the original opening for Assassins, and it was the song that he was singing. So essentially, this song is like a parade of these like people, and it's like, I don't know how to, like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but the way that I read it, I literally started crying because I was like, why would you take this out? Like, I was like, this is genius. Like, why would you do that? But like, I don't know, like Assassins is so, it's honestly one of my favorites. It is my favorite like historical musical because I think it is genius.
Joe Mantello, he directed Assassins, didn't he?
Which Assassins?
Like he directed the original or like the 2004 version, right?
I think he did the 2004.
I feel like I remember listening to somebody talk about staging Assassins and talking about how they used like a white t-shirt and they just like projected the Zapruder film onto it during.
That's interesting.
I don't remember where I heard this, but I want to say it was Joe Mantello talking about it. I couldn't tell you when or where.
I wouldn't be surprised because he's awesome. He's like,
he directed really Wicked.
Yeah, no, he's
one of the rare actor directors who does both frequently.
Didn't he direct Boys in the Band too?
I think so. But he directed
I recently watched that on Netflix actually. Yeah.
Was it good? I haven't watched it yet.
I didn't finish it. I was like half asleep when I started it, so I need to like rewatch it. I suggested it to someone too. So.
But he directed Wicked, but then he goes and he's like, I'm gonna go be in Hollywood. I'm gonna be Ryan Murphy's Hollywood, and be
he's amazing.
Yeah, he's great.
He's amazing. But like, what I think is so interesting, Assassins can be done so many different ways and still be the same musical, and I think that's so interesting because like I've never seen a production of it because like it doesn't get produced often in the US, which is a whole interesting topic in and of itself.
Yeah, especially considering it's about US president.
Well, it's because a lot of people think that it doesn't vilify, like a lot of people don't know
glorifies
well enough.
They probably think so
they think it glorifies these people, and which is also, it's valid because like if you don't listen to it, you kind of assume that that's what this musical does, like if you don't know anything about it, which makes sense. But I know the one I've seen the most like clips from and stuff is from the 2014 production, I believe, at the Meunier Chocolate Factory in London. It was directed by Jamie Lloyd, I believe, right? Jamie Lloyd, I think. And it had Catherine Tate, Aaron Tveit. It's mostly like West End actors, I believe. Like it was a really, really talented cast. Like everyone was amazing. And I've seen a few clips from it, like a few like bootlegs. And like I've heard audio from it, and it was done in like, what theaters? Circle in the Square. Like it's kind of similar, but it was very small. It's a very, very, very small theater. Like the Meunier Chocolate Factory theater is very small. So it was a few hundred people maybe in this audience, and like they're all like surrounding the theater and surrounding the stage, like in like a peninsula type of thing. And it's honestly, like listening to it, one of the best productions of Assassins out there. Like it sounded amazing. And then like the few clips that I saw were just like genius. Like they were just so good. Like the cast was amazing. Everyone was so, because it was very stripped down. Like the musical itself is very stripped down. Like it's not very like extravagant or spectacular or anything. So I don't know. I just think Assassins can be done so many different ways. And
I was excited for it.
It's so well done.
I was excited for it. I think Classic Stage Company was supposed to do it off Broadway.
We were going to go see it together.
We were going to see a lot of things.
I know, like we were so excited because we were like Stephen Pasquale and Selma's booth.
I know, and then Ethan Slater was in it. I think Will Swenson was in it.
Wesley Taylor was in it.
I know. Oh, who was the balladeer? I don't
I thought
remember.
that was Ethan.
Was he? I
I feel like
would
that role was made for Ethan Slater.
probably. No, SpongeBob
Like-
was made for Ethan Slater. He was
Yeah,
SpongeBob.
that's true. And then the Balladeer is like a close second. Because
Yeah.
I feel like Ethan Slater would be so good as a Balladeer.
Yeah.
But Stephen Pasquale is freaking dog, dude. God, I want to see that so bad. Because his voice is so perfect for it.
Oh my God, it would have been amazing.
So good.
Yeah. Ugh. Anyway, long
We keep
tangent.
getting off topic about Stephen Sondheim things.
Well, that's totally fine because we're wrapping this up
Fine.
anyway.
We're allowed.
Okay. If you guys want to follow us on social media, Jill, what are our social media handles?
Our Instagram is Thoughts Shared Podcast. Our TikTok is Thoughts Shared Podcast. And our Twitter is Thoughts Shared _ because podcast was too long.
And if you want to follow me individually, I am on Instagram at Complete Katie. I'm also on TikTok at Katiefornia. So that's KATIEFORNIA. And Jill, if you want to follow her individually,
I am at It's Jill Hayes on all platforms.
perfect.
TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, the like.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk to you guys later.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.